Don't fall for the clickbait. It is time for the first show of November. Welcome to November. Diamond Diehards is on. Joe Rizzo here bringing you baseball along with the dog, Jeff Healy. Welcome to November. The clickbait, don't fall for it. The dog and I welcome you to November with grace and enthusiasm as we look at the Mets front office decisions, the offseason MLB carousel of managers, a possible deal between the Yanks and the Red Sox, plus the beleaguered states of the Giants and the Jets in the NFL. We're streaming it all live for you right now. If you're on the Facebook group, welcome. During, of course, the barn burner between the Carolina Panthers and the Chicago Bears, alternative viewing courtesy of Riz and the Dawg. Nothing really important happened in October. I guess the Rangers won the World Series over the Diamondbacks, and so here we are talking about a war broke out, another one. Everything's going to shit everywhere on the globe. We had another election day, so at least that was good. We got to exercise our right to vote, and now we're in the shadows of Veterans Day, at which time we'd like to thank all of our veterans, especially our favorite veteran, the Dawg, for all of your service, and gladly appreciate that you all have your special day coming up mere hours from now. And for most of you watching or listening, you'll probably be listening on Veterans Day, so hopefully you have the day off no matter where you are. All right, we got a lot of stuff to cover, Dawg, but first of all, we always like to start with curveballs, but like off the cuff, I feel like I just want to. I'd like to get your thoughts on Veterans Day, like what it means to you, maybe like a Veterans Day story. I remember one thing you always said, like if you're ever chatting up a veteran, like but like we used to do Veteran of the Day, on here for a long time. But like one thing that always resonated with me was when you would say, it's awesome to thank a vet for their service, but what's even better is if you take a few seconds to just have them tell you, a story about whatever it was. So tell us a story.
You know what? It's funny, Riz. I was actually thinking that exact thing. I was going to cut into your monologue and sort of say that same thing. So look at that. We're on the hive mind on there. Yeah, it's fine. First of all, thank you very much for all that. Um, yeah, it's funny, like the whole big thing. I like the one big thing. So like I was sort of thinking like the one big thing is like thank you for your service, and like then you have like the go deeper on all the different things now, and that's kind of like what we sort of say with asking like what's your favorite story or favorite memory or funniest thing that happened to you and stuff like that. And the thing that makes that kind of fun, I mean, obviously it depends, right? If you're doing like a quick passing by and stuff, just saying thank you, that's cool. And um yeah, and I don't want to minimize that. I think there are some, I think it's a little generational, if I can go there, but I think some of the younger veterans get a little more upset about the whole like thank you for your service, and they think it's like almost, I don't know if they think it's snide or snarky or just sort of minimizing and whatever. I don't get that sense. I think most of the folks at my generation, certainly older, don't get that sense. And I think a lot of it comes from if you're around to see or read about how the Vietnam vets were treated, right? Nobody thanked them for their service, right? They did a lot of other things for them. The thank yous were certainly not part of it. And my generation of veterans, go for and after, um, were the beneficiaries of realizing how wrong that was, right? And then like we got the free meals everywhere, and everyone came up and was effusive, and you're all heroes and stuff like that, and almost you could argue maybe a little too far in that direction. But I never forget where that came from, and that came from the poor way that the guys before me were treated. Um, so whenever someone goes out to say that, and I would say it's like the younger veterans out there, yeah, maybe you want to be able to say more on it, but don't ever minimize like a non-serving member coming up and saying thank you for your service. That I think it's heartfelt and it's important. And 10 years from now, you might be lucky to get that. So don't minimize it. It's important. If you do want to go deeper, can't always say on that. And maybe the downside of a thank you for your service is that's sort of the end of the conversation. Generally, the response back is kind of like thank you or had a great time or whatever, something like that. But if you really want to kind of get in touch and really get to know a veteran stuff, and that's the stuff that you suggested, like what's your favorite memory, what's your favorite story, things like that. That starts a conversation. And a lot of times, you hopefully get some pretty good stories and pretty good times, and you're going to make that veteran feel good, right? Everyone feels better about saying about a good a good portion that they a good time that they had with them. Interesting stat that we had from our vets group at Guardian is I think it was something like 50% of people had like literally never met a veteran, like ever, like not even to say thank you for your service, like just literally never came within like arm's reach of a veteran. And I think only a third have actually like had a conversation or something like that, or exchanged any words with a veteran. So if you get an opportunity, go out and do that. And if you're a veteran, get out and try and make yourself available. We're trying to kind of do that as much as we can because it's important. We don't, 1 to 3% of the population serves at this point, or 3% I think have served, and 1% kind of currently serve. 3 million people or so. It's not a lot, and it's generally in concentrated areas, and it's families, generation after generation. And you'll have some areas of the country where you just won't see it, right? You'll have 1 in 5,000 as a veteran. My VFW in town, there's 4 of us out there. We probably had 20, 30, 40 with some of the World War II guys and stuff, and now it's down to there's kind of 4 or 5 of us from Gulf War onward and so. So anyway, all that being said, I also
The
brought up
clickbait. It.
a a favorite memory for me is clearly airborne school. That was one of my favorite things, getting to jump from a plane. Um, that was just a fantastic experience. It was a physical and mental challenge, and just the most peaceful aspect you've ever been is if you're floating underneath the parachute, kind of coming down before you can hear the airborne sergeants yelling at you. So in between there, from jumping out of the plane to landing on there, that's a pretty awesome time. And the rest is really just like the typical stuff, like just hanging out with your buds and stuff, and having some brews, and kicking back after a long day of being in the field or whatever, and sitting around smoking cigars and kind of enjoying life. And it's a deep brotherhood, a deep family, and it's a great feeling to have that. And I guess that's sort of my favorite memories for that.
Wow, it's pretty amazing stuff. I mean, we've talked before, about your service and your deployments, but maybe it's a good time to just, give the elevator pitch version of it for those who
Quick hit,
don't know your
quick
craft.
hit
Yeah,
of
quick hits. Time of diehards, quick hits.
so
2 hours in.
so, yeah, quick hit. I got called up in 2009 and deployed. Went down to Fort Polk for 3 months to get trained up as an advisor to the Iraqi army. So I got to learn a little Arabic and stuff like that and schmooze. A lot of fun. I was trained as an army engineer, so that's kind of what I did for 20 years. And then when I deployed, they said you're now going to help run a warehouse and schmooze in Arabic. So that's pretty much par for the course for the way the military works. And that's what makes it kind of fun. So I got to go off, did that for like 9 or 10 months over in Iraq. Was the biggest Ford dealer in the Middle East with about 2,000 F-250s out there. A lot of fun. Got to make a difference and help them stand up the Iraqi army and the Kurdish units within the Iraqi army. That was one of our proudest moments, kind of working with that. Got to brief generals, got to brief the ambassador one time. It turned out it was a former Army colonel. I was wondering because he was really on the ball, and then I realized why. So I looked up his history afterwards. So it was a great experience. It was great getting to finally use my training and try and make a difference in the world. And it was even more fun to come back and see my family and friends again.
Yeah, just recently one of the pictures came up from that first time that you were back, and a few of us had gotten together, and of course, it's sentimental because I look at that picture and I'm like, wow, I wasn't as fat as I am now.
It's funny I have a similar view.
Yeah.
It was like 2 weeks before I ran the marathon. I'm like, oh, it'll be 2 weeks now.
Yeah. You're like
It'll be
2 years.
2 weeks to finish the marathon.
Yeah.
So, good.
Uh,
Yes, that was good times.
yeah, so all that stuff, I wrote this whole show description, and I'm like, all right, Dawg, we're prepared for tonight. And of course, like,
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, oh shit, like we got to do Veterans Day. Like, yeah, let's
And
just do that
Veterans
off.
Day is a fun day too. That's our so that I'll get on my soapbox here. So how we should flip flop Veterans Day, Memorial Day, but yeah, Veterans Day is the day to party. So don't feel like you got to walk around like wearing all black and be sad and stuff like that. Veterans Day is all about the people who have served in the military. We love to have a great time. We love to talk. We love to have a beer. So so
A
that's it.
beer,
Don't beer.
a
Beers.
beer, an
A beer.
hour, a minute.
Beer at a time.
Yeah,
So yeah,
sometimes.
go out and have fun with it. So
All right, thanks for that, Dawg. And as always, yeah, I think we got into thanks for the service too. I always like to thank the families too, because
mhm.
there's always sacrifice, especially when a father of 6 is leaving his brood back, and other heroes like Dawg and Cat. Yes, it's a real thing. So thank Cat for us too,
Will do.
because well, she's not yelling at you to get off the air. You gotta finish the dishes and walk the dog, the diamond
Exactly.
dog.
The Diamond Dog.
All right, so we got this.
But now we have to talk about all the bad stuff.
Yeah, now we're talking about all the garbage. So we got this like major league managers carousel, but it kind of like, I don't know. Does it start with Craig Counsell? Does it start with Carlos Mendoza? Like, was Counsell the first guy to? So all right, Dawg, I'm gonna pull one on you. This is not. It's not. I'm not pulling like anything crazy here, but
What did we get rid of Buck?
yeah, why? Yeah, that was.
Let's start with that.
A little bit. No, so a source that I have was golfing recently, like 2 weeks ago, with John Franco. And
Okay.
John Franco 2 weeks ago was like, Craig Counsell's not going to New York. Craig Counsell hates New York. Like, anybody who knows Craig knows that, like, not that he hates New York, but he's not a New York guy. Like, he's
Yeah.
just not going to New York. Like, it's like a known thing. And yet the whole time, like, the Mets fans had I mean, I guess you kind of get your hopes up, right? Because he's kind of the most established guy out there. The relationship between him and David Stearns, when David Stearns ran the Brewers and Craig Counsell was his guy, although Counsell actually preceded him there, believe it or not, but he never got rid of him, so you kind of figure that's his guy. But like, apparently everybody sort of like in baseball just knew that was a thing, except for the Met fan. And in this case, Dawg, I am actually going to reveal my source. Would you like to know?
Yes, of course.
It was Mike Francesa said it on his podcast. He said,
Oh, so it has to be gospel then.
well, he said he was golfing with
Mike
John
said it.
Franco. He said he was golfing with John Franco 2 weeks ago, and they had this conversation. I was like, wow, he's just coming out and saying it. But yeah, so apparently it was like sort of a known thing. And Like, but what?
Yes and no, though, right? I mean, I'll say as a Met fan, my first of all, I didn't want to get rid of Buck, so let's start from there. I'm like, I thought he was as good, and then of all the choices I've seen since then, he was still would be my choice for who should be the manager of the Mets. New guy coming in, whatever. He wants to get his pick. We're kind of coming off the Shane and Dable. I guess we're still thinking it was a good example of that, of kind of coming in with a sort of a preset team. It did seem like Council's contract was sort of set up to coincide with when Stearns was available. So it kind of made sense of like, all right, we got rid of a good guy, but the head guy we're waiting on, like we're basically the Mets been waiting for 2 years for David Stearns, at least two years, to come in. It seems like this is his guy. He wants his guy. So therefore, all right, I guess Buck has to go to make room for his guy. And that kind of ties together. Then not getting your guy is sort of like, well, then why do we do this in the first place? So like, if you can upgrade your position, upgrade your manager, whatever, that's fine. But it seemed like we pushed Buck out to make room for somebody who then was not going to come. And that to me is like, well, then why the hell we get rid of Buck in the first place? And I guess that's kind of what we're struggling with. I mean, yeah, was his first job? I mean, yeah, it seemed like, the scuttlebutt was he didn't want to leave Milwaukee, right? He has young kids and kids in high school and stuff, and I totally get that, right? And I'm sure that's a lot of what like Franco's kind of saying that, right? Like he's kind of set. He's got a good gig going on in Milwaukee. Like no one's breaking his chops. He's obviously liked in the community, in town, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that he doesn't want to come to New York thing somewhat ties together, but then he goes to Chicago just to make the dough. That doesn't add up to me. Like if he stayed in Milwaukee, the Francesca Franco thing makes more sense to me.
Well, here's the thing.
He doesn't like New York, but he's okay with Chicago.
Well, apparently Chicago is even closer to where he lives.
Oh, so
in Wisconsin. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure where he lived outside. I know Milwaukee's not that far from Chicago.
I don't know that for sure, but I think I heard that Chicago is actually even closer to where he lives. So
yeah, that seems a little.
And nobody knew the Cubs.
They're close, but they're not that close. I don't know.
And who knew the Cubs were looking for a manager?
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems weird. I mean, it's not gonna make or break it. Particularly, like, I mean, it seems like everyone's going more analytical. Well, actually, we'll see, right? But if you continue the trend of everything's more analytical and the manager's there to execute on it, maybe it's not as big of a deal, right? And you just get a guy who's sort of willing to say yes and can make it happen. Maybe that's not as big a situation, but yeah, like first step out, I'm not so thrilled so far. I don't really see how we didn't like lose value going from guy who was a manager of the year to an untested guy. I don't know. I mean, Zach Scott, who can run out of town, but supposedly knows baseball, says Mendoza's really good. I don't know. I mean, the guy was bench coach of the Yankees, so I mean, he's clearly not an idiot. Clearly knows baseball. We'll see. Everyone's got to have a shot the first time. Hopping right in for like super high expectations of a billionaire owner in New York. We'll see. I'm not sure to set themselves up for an easy ride, but I said we will see.
Okay, so we got some people jumping in the chat. Mike Sarah, Butler Miller. Mike says, I don't know whom it starts with. I don't know with whom it starts, but it should end with Boone. I mean, it should end Boone. Butler Miller says he went to ND close to Chicago, Craig Council. So yeah, those are some interesting ties. Why not the White Sox? Like, why not go manage the White Sox then? because the Cubs are more north. No, it's because the Cubs are the Cubs and the Cubs are not the White Sox.
But there might be 8 million reasons a year that you could think of why you'd like to go there too.
Yeah, those.
Let's keep it real.
Those reasons.
I said, I mean, he could have gone for family, he could have gone for friends, or he could have gone for the 8 million a year. Then he went for the 8 million a year, and and that's.
And he still gets to keep all the. He still gets to keep all the other stuff.
Yeah.
He's got more resources in the organization.
Solstice.
Yeah, he doesn't have the resources of a British Empire, of a King George.
King
Okay.
Steve. Uncle Stevie.
Well, I mean, the Cubs have plenty of resources, and
Yeah.
we got to see what they decide to do. What I think is funny, Dog, is like you just see all these people assuming that the Yankees are going to get Cody Bellinger, blah blah blah, and like, why wouldn't the Cubs just re-sign him? Like after the year he had, after he talked about how much he loves playing there and he loves that park, it totally like revitalized his career. Like he's a perfect fit. Like why now they switched up the manager, but listen, Council's respected.
Yeah,
Like if you
exactly.
like David Ross, you're probably gonna like Craig Council. You're not thinking that they did something helter skelter. Like, yeah, they were going in the right direction, but like I get why they made the move.
Yeah.
So
It's an upgrade in talent, right? Just like
yeah,
you're supposed to.
theoretically, I mean
Yeah.
Ross did a good job there,
Yeah.
but it it like Cody Bellinger's gonna stay, right? Like, why would he go? It doesn't make any sense. Like they're so strong up the middle now, and he's such a big part of it. And the segue, Dog, is um if Bellinger's not headed to the Yankees, which by the way, like I'll probably get ethered for this anyway, but I just don't think he's that great of a fit with the Yankees. Um, he's I know he wasn't as much of it this year, but he's still a swing and miss guy. I love his defense. I mean, he's a great center fielder. He projects. If you sign him to a long-term deal, you already know that he could play a Gold Glove level first base, which was I always thought it was crazy. I'm like, why aren't the, like why who are the Dodgers putting in center field to like play him at first base? Like he's just great at both. Like if he
Yeah.
plays center field, he's one of the best center fielders in the league. If he plays first base, he's one of the best first basemen in the league defensively. And then, his offense can be a real boon as well. But like for the Yankees, they have so many of these like swing and miss guys that yeah, I mean it on paper, in theory rather, like it looks like okay, you get your
Looks like a
left-handed
fit. Yeah.
slugging center fielder, but it's another, big swing and miss guy. Wherever he bats, whether it's in front of him or behind him, he's going to be right connected to Judge, right? Now, Judge, for all his greatness, it strikes out a lot, right? He walks a lot, but he strikes out a lot. And then you start adding those strikeouts together, and we've seen what happens. Like you gotta get out of that mode. You can't have too many of those guys if you want to have that ultimate success in October and into November, right? Like and we're going back in this direction again. Like the analytics stuff where that have said strikeouts are better than putting the ball in play. Yeah, I guess there's still a few people on that mountain, and they think they're smarter than all the rest of us. She gone. They're not, right? They're not. So and you're starting to see it. Teams with like the veteran managers like Bruce Bochy and well, Dusty Baker's now retired, but like who are willing to play that kind of ball and put the emphasis back on putting balls in play and making teams make plays. And the pitching staff is maybe a whole other thing, but we're just kind of talking about offense, defense here. Like, yeah, like Cody Bellinger would be an upgrade on whatever the Yankees have, but for the long term, he's not the best guy, I think, to pair with Judge. The best guys to pair with Judge, the best guy probably is Juan Soto. He's probably the best guy. And, tied for the best guy, I think, is Ohtani, although you could make the same argument that he also strikes out a lot, but I think he's just a flat out better hitter than Bellinger. Like he's a more versatile hitter. Soto's really the guy that you want to pair. So that leads into the next thing, this rumored Yankees Red Sox potential trade. The Yankees apparently were hot on Alex Verdugo even at the trade deadline. They didn't pull the trigger because it's the Red Sox, right? And the rumored deal is Gleyber Torres for Alex Verdugo. I'm kind of neutral on it, Dog. I want to see what your take might be.
Borderline, I'm kind of there too. I mean, that's sort of both feels like that's sort of fairly even value, kind of each way on there, and probably each guy probably benefits from getting a new spot. So I can see it. It's if it doesn't happen, I don't think it's a crime of the century either. But yeah, I think it kind of makes some sense. And from the Yanks. I think if the Red Sox are going to deal day one, they're not thrilled to deal with the Yankees, but I think Torres. I think I've valued Torres more than like maybe some other folks and stuff, but I think he, um, I think he's a really good ball player, and I think he just kind of needs another opportunity. I think the talent is there, um, and that might be all the chance he needs to go out and show it.
So what I like to look at, and you know me, like God forbid we just look at it one way, right? We got to look at it 17 different ways. But the view that I was examining where I was at first, I was like, you know what? I don't think I like that deal for the Yankees. And I think either way, I kind of like it for the Red Sox anyway. But one way, sort of, I don't like it for the Yankees. First of all, I think if you just put Torres up against Verdugo, that Torres is just a better player.
Okay.
Like I think he's just better. Like I don't think it's a tremendous amount. I think he's had a higher ceiling to start with. And he plays a more important position. But the thing and I guess these guys are both in their last year of their contract in 2024, which is kind of the key to the whole deal for me, at least, which is one reason why I think it's not so bad for the Yankees, that it's probably in the end a wash, or maybe the way that they could come out positive from it is this. You get another left-handed bat into the lineup, but really what you're getting is probably two left-handed bats in the lineup, because it opens a spot for Oswaldo Cabrera. And pretty much that spot to me would be second base, possibly third base. So you get Verdugo's lefty bat into the outfield. I'm not sure where. Is it going to be center? He's not a good defensive center fielder. He's probably okay in left. His best position is probably right, but he's not going to play there. So you're talking either about moving Judge back to center until Jason Dominguez is ready to come back, or some kind of variation of something there. Maybe they bring back Harrison Bader and platoon him with Verdugo somehow between center and left and whatever. But what it does is, if you do have Verdugo there, he does make some good contact. He's not a completely established player. He's kind of gritty. He's all right. He's solid, and he does put the bat on the ball, which I do like. But you also being able to get Cabrera into the lineup as a switch hitter, now you're starting to tear down some of the stuff that has really hindered your, level of success here, where they've been just too right-handed. And it's not that these guys are going to come into the lineup and hit 35 homers from the left side or, switch hitting, but they make the lineup just a little bit more difficult to pitch against. The price is that Torres is, one of your best hitters to start with.
Yeah.
So if you feel like Giancarlo Stanton is not washed up, then it's probably a pretty easy deal for you to make. The problem also, though, Dog, is if having Verdugo starts to prevent you from going after Ohtani and or Soto, Ohtani being the free agent now, Soto being the free agent after this 2024 season, but possibly, quite possibly available in a trade, you'd have to give something pretty dear up to get him from the Padres. If that hinders it in any way, then it's totally not worth it. So, but I don't think Torres is necessarily a piece that you would be dangling to the Padres to get Soto. It doesn't.
Yeah.
They're loaded with right-handed guys who came up as shortstops. Like they don't need another one of him. they're better off just keeping Soto for the year, right? Like, so
Yeah.
they're not gonna, be dangled by. I mean, they might like Verdugo better, actually, then come to think of it. Like, they're like, well, you can have Verdugo for the year and, see if you want to sign him. But it's sort of an interesting deal. I mean, it's a little bit of moving around the deck chairs, but the Yankees might need the deck chairs moved around. And, as Mike Serra would say, like, Cashman's out of his mind here with his assessment that he thinks we have a pretty effing good team. You gotta sometimes moving around the deck chairs does work because you change the chemistry. You do something to shake it up, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're the Yanks are a little stuck right now. They do need a bit of a spark with it. Yeah, like I said, I think it kind of makes sense, but it's it's one of those things. It's pretty fair to me. It's pretty fair, pretty fair talent back and forth, and it's sort of what fits into your lineup and what fits more what you're looking to do. I mean, the sort of finding is I think the Yankees could use more guys like that. It's just like you don't necessarily want to be taking away one of the few guys who does do that to begin with. So like it'd be better to have like Glaber and versus swapping Glaber for a lefty Glaber. So which I think is kind of what you're doing.
Who's not a middle infielder?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and we can that. So
What about the comments, Dog? You want to check the comments there?
let me yeah, actually let me see
Or
here.
I have it up. If you don't have it up, I don't know. Usually you're
I did
so
then I clicked it down.
so Mike Sarah says, which Bellinger are you signing, 2022 or 2023? Well, you're signing the 2023 one in terms of price, right? Because he bounced back. So the price goes up. If he did nothing this year, then you would be signing him to a 1-year deal, right? Like, I'm taking a chance. Mike Sarah says, like Verdugo, but would hate that trade. Torres has more value, and it would be underselling him. Butler Miller says trading within your division is still a bit taboo, although Butler in the division that you root for, the NL Central, you basically just had a manager defect from Milwaukee down to Chicago. So that's, I wonder how much hate Greg Counsell is going to get there. I mean, people in Milwaukee are so polite. Maybe a little hate, right?
You gotta think. Gotta think. How about Stroman opting out?
Yeah, not a surprise. I mean, listen, if you're a pitcher, you got to go take every cent that you
Chase the
can
buck.
get. Yeah, you have to, right? Like, you can't begrudge those guys. They're the highest attrition rate, like where they could go from hero to zero on one pitch. So I can't kill a pitcher for trying to optimize his dollars. You know,
Would you
excuse me.
sign him?
No, I don't want him on my
I wouldn't
team.
either. I don't want
I
him either.
mean, we've been there, done that with the Mets. Um, the guy can pitch. He's streaky, but he's a lightning rod. And, how many lightning rods have there been on the past few World Series winning teams? That's one way to look at it, right?
Huh?
Like, if he pitches like Justin Verlander, then I can deal with it. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree with his stances on stuff, but he is a lightning rod kind of player, right? Like, he's
He
combative.
makes it tough to root for him.
He does. Well, he's
Even if you want to root for him, he seems to find a way to make it hard to be a fan.
Yeah, like, he's active on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, right? And he will definitely jump in and fire back at fans. But it's like, well, one of those, but to be fair, he gets a lot of hate on there, and he gets a lot of disgusting hate on there, right?
Yeah.
He gets racial hate. And I mean, that's not acceptable. Like, so is he supposed to just STFU and not say anything? Every now and then he posts some of the racial shit that people send at him. So I don't blame him for being mad and for putting that stuff out there and putting people on notice. But, if you're asking me if I want him on my team, like, I'll just pass. Like, I'll find somebody else who's a similar value guy and doesn't bring all the other stuff with him. I mean, why do some players get that and some players don't? Most players probably don't, right? But some
Actually, I
guys,
have no idea. That's actually a great question. That would be a great. I'd love to. I mean, we got to reach out to our Shigan guys and stuff like you do wonder that, right? Like if you just reach a certain amount of fame, that there's just so many a-holes on social media that just blast away at everybody, right? I mean, look at Carl Banks. This whole thing. Like, I
oh,
mean, how many bad things got Carl? Like, I mean, I've been on Twitter with Carl and stuff, and it's like, how in the world can you have a problem if you're a theoretical Giant fan, like saying anything negative about Carl Banks? And and that exists. So I guess that's why I sort of feel like, maybe it's just most get it and most guys ignore it, or is it there's a few that get the vitriolic stuff, and they're the ones who wind up having to respond to it. I don't know. It's an interesting. I really don't know the answer now, but I think it's an interesting conversation. And it's an interesting look at our society. Unfortunately, I feel like it's the lowest common denominator, and I think it's actually probably a lot more prevalent than we think.
yeah,
Certainly, every woman who's on social media pretty much
yeah.
gets like the worst possible stuff thrown at them. So I'm gonna guess any famous athlete is probably getting a ton of it there, and they're just really good at blocking folks. So.
By the way, Carl Banks is so good. He's like better as an analyst and a host than he was on the field. And on the field, like, first of all, I could keep looking at, I'm like, how is he not in the Hall of Fame? Like, how is he not in the Hall of Fame? Like,
only because like he was the number 2 or 3 guy on like an all-time NFL defense, I guess. Right? I don't know. I mean, sure, it's just, I don't know. I think the guy's a tremendous player. He was one of my favorites growing up. Which probably I don't know if you hit before the Giants Jets game. We're gonna diverge on here. This won't be a quick hit, but the fact that him and Mickey Schuler, who like I was before I was a Giant fan, I was kind of a Jet fan, and Mickey Schuler was like one of my guys. I actually played like tight end and stuff. Like I like say idolized, but like he was kind of like the other side. It was like I love Carl Banks as a linebacker. I loved Mickey Schuler as a tight end. Apparently, there is no love between Carl Banks and Mickey Schuler, and apparently, like I don't know if he flat out called him a dirty player, but he certainly hinted it. If he didn't on the podcast, which I thought was hilarious because I never really heard that from any place else before. But yeah, Carl was pretty opinionated on playing against Mickey Schuler.
well, they just that podcast with Bob Papa,
Fordham,
Bob Papa from
Fordham,
and Bergen Catholic, by the way.
There you go.
He
It's just great. It's great. It just gets better and better. And they're fantastic on Twitter as well with interacting with the fans and stuff like that. Which again makes the whole Carl fan thing just so.
I gotta say, I love listening to that podcast. The Believe in Giants. We'll just give them a plug. Why not?
Yeah.
The Believe in Giants podcast. Like the team is going literally nowhere, and I'm like, I gotta listen to what they're gonna say. 100%. Like I gotta hear, and I love that
they're not homers, right?
And I love that Carl Banks uses 4-letter words on there. Like Papa doesn't do it. He's just like too ingrained,
Yeah.
But I like it emphasizes. Yeah, he does. Yeah.
I mean, but
rare.
It's rare. Yeah.
Rare. But I love when Carl Banks does it.
Oh yeah.
And he was S-bombing and F-bombing in the latest episode, like the way that the Giants played against the Raiders. Yeah. So let's talk a little football, dog. Let's talk a little Giants Jets. Like the one. So we'll talk about like let's go from Marcus Stroman to Evan Neal, right? Like who was on the verge here of becoming a lightning rod. And what was it? Like it was. He wasn't playing well. He was.
I would say I think we're talking magnitudes different though.
No. But listen, he's a second-year player, and you hadn't heard anything, right?
Yeah.
So he
has no standing for doing it. Yeah, that's true.
He comes out, and he's getting turnstiled every week, and it's just bad. Like he's the top. What was he? He was the 7th.
Number 5.
Oh, he was the 5, not the. Wait,
No, he was 7. I'm
he was
sorry.
7. Thibodeau was 5,
Thibodeau was
right?
5. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 was 5.
'Cause they-
So and he's like there's high expectations for the guy, even though he's still a young player, and it's just not at that point working out quite so well. And he kind of takes aim at the fans and says something that I'm sure he regretted saying.
yeah, burger flipping and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, like these guys are out flipping burgers, and the one thing that you can't do, this is a Mike Francesa thing. He's like, you can't ever, like, I don't care whether it's New York or anywhere else, like you're not going to win a fight with the fans.
Yep.
You're just not. And you know what he's done? Like we got to give the guy a little credit, Dog. I got to say, he apologized. I thought it was sincere. I did. I really did. I think he
was pissed.
Yeah, he was pissed. I think he's competitive. He wants to win. I think he was expecting more from himself, and he just said something the wrong way. I think he's a smart guy and a good dude who made just a bad decision in haste. And you know what, Dog? I got to say it. The guy has quietly played a lot better. Like a lot better. And Carl Banks was talking about this. He's like, he had some good moments, and he was going against Max Crosby. There's maybe some people who are as good as Max Crosby at that position, but I don't know if there's anybody better. I mean, he's in the handful of guys, right?
Yeah.
Edge rushers. And, Crosby got the better of him sometimes, but like that wasn't a pretty Giant game, but Neil has steadied the ship. He steadied the ship here a little bit. And he deserves a little credit because
fighting injuries too, which
Yeah.
still makes it tough to evaluate him.
It does. It does. But you know what? The guy put his tail between his legs and he put his nose down, and he's showing me something.
Yep.
And in a lost season where we had these great hopes for the Giants as Giant fans, finally coming out of the doldrums here. I mean, I know we're still looking at
2 and a lot.
Yeah, I mean, they might, like they're not going to throw in the towel. Like these guys are still going to play, and there's some games that, maybe down the line they could win.
They could sneak some.
And listen, Tommy DeVito, like he's the 10th rookie to start a game in the NFL this year. It's already a record. So I mean, at some point you're going to run into somebody else who's starting somebody like that, right? Like if they play the Bears or Carolina or whoever else is on the schedule, you're going to start running into somebody else who's got the same problems. And they might end up winning a few games. Like look at the way the defense played before this game against the Raiders. Like the defense bared down. I mean, they should have won the game against the Bills. They did win the game against the Commanders. And, the Commanders scored 31 against the Eagles. Like, I mean, it's not like they're awful. So you figure at some point the defense is going to rebound as well. And,
against the Jets till the last.
Yeah, the Jet game.
30 seconds. Yeah.
Like
yeah,
realistically.
That's what I was saying. The first part of the season, that to me was the most disappointing part, was how bad the defense played. And yeah, everyone's kind of killing Daniel Jones and the Giants line and stuff like that, and rightfully so. But I'm like, they put a decent amount of talent into that. It was already a pretty good defense. They put a lot of draft talent and free agent talent onto that defense. I'm like, and they were not getting it done the first 4 weeks of the season. They started to finally get it going, which gave you a little bit of hope that they could, maybe win some tight games and just find a way to make stuff happen. Which again, it just sort of the story of the season, right? Just every week there's just something that's like crushingly disappointing. And again, to me in the Raiders was the defense just being terrible. And Deontay Banks, who was playing great, I think he gets hit a little bit on the PFF scores, but kind of passing the eye test. He's playing as the top guy. And, I think he's shown that he belongs out there. And he was just getting eaten alive. And all of a sudden, like, couldn't jam guy. Like, I was excited because he's a good guy to jam guys at the line, which fits to the Giant defense and would be a good thing against the Raiders. And he's just out there whiffing every time. And just totally letting guys get easy releases and just getting eaten alive on it. I don't know. Frustrating.
Look, at some point too, Tommy DeVito's.
It's like the Mets season never ended.
Yeah,
It
it's
went straight to the Giants season.
at some point too. Tommy DeVito's going to settle in. He's just going to keep getting reps, and they'll start to open things up, and just we'll see if he performs and if he's a guy that's worth keeping. But you look like you're headed for a top 5 draft pick no matter what. That could put you in the mix for one of these quarterbacks. If you take the quarterback, again, what you're not doing is helping your team immediately, because you'd still have Daniel Jones playing next year, which I think I would guess that he'll probably be ready, depending on the severity of the torn ACL and how the surgery goes and the rehab and everything. But he's probably still within the window where he's going to be ready or close to ready by the start of the season. But if you're using your first round pick that high on a quarterback, you get into the problem that you had with Jones and Eli, right? Like, you kept Eli around for another year, but you used your biggest asset on something that completely can't help him because he can't be on the field at the same time with him.
Yeah.
So if you do that again, like, you either have to find a taker for Jones, or you let the new guy, whoever it is, Drake May from North Carolina, I don't know, you let him sit for a year so he's not thrown right into the fire. But then how are you helping your team too? Because what if he's CJ Stroud and you're just letting him sit on your bench?
Yeah.
And right? Yeah. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it feels like, I mean, it's just so frustrating. You have to, I mean, if you're a Big Ten Jones supporter like I've been, the second neck injury, now the ACL, you're forced to it. They're going to have to make a move, because now you're sort of saying that the Giants are still at least 2 or 3 years away, and in which case, you're at Daniel Jones 8 or 9 years in at this point. It's time. You're basically coming up to, like, you're gonna need to draft a quarterback soon anyway. Like, you're probably 2 or 3 years away from that anyway. Now,
counterpoint though, Dawg. Counterpoint.
Mhm.
Phil Simms was hurt a lot early in his career. He was known as a guy who could never stay on the field, and then
he had a lot of freak injuries. I do remember that. Like, he had the hitting the helmet and stuff like that, right? Like, you get 2 neck injuries, man, that's, I don't know, right? I mean, just how many times you gonna roll the dice with that one? And once is okay. A second time, I don't know. I obviously not my area of expertise, but man, that just doesn't seem like in the NFL that it doesn't feel like that's the right thing to do for that guy.
It certainly doesn't encourage you to run the tush push.
Oh, God.
Which is the worst play for a neck injury. Like, please,
let's go do that.
Carl Banks called it trash. He's like, it's garbage. That play's garbage. He's like, you have so many different running plays that are designed to get 4 or 5 yards that even if they fail, you'll get 1. Yeah. Like, why are you even bothering it with that play?
Unless you're the Giants running.
And Papa's like, you're supposed to put big guys back there, and they put Matt Breida back there. Like, just guys, just don't even run it.
None of that made sense.
Yeah. Let the Eagles run it, Yeah. I mean, or don't let them run it. Don't let the Eagles do anything. Just don't let the Eagles win.
Don't we have a Gary Reasons who can come up and just, like, blast that?
I don't know, but, like, is that even legal now?
Why can't anybody find? Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's it. You can't do that. Nobody can leap over except for guys blocking the giant field goals. They can do that.
Yeah, they could do that. Nobody else can, though. I don't know, Dog. What about the Jets? Or wait, you know what? Actually, there is a segue to this, because the Panthers are playing the Bears, right? So, and literally as this is going on right now, and I don't even have a score. You got a score, Dog?
No.
I don't have a score. So the Panthers have a very good chance to be the worst team in the NFL. But the Bears have their first round pick because of the Bryce Young trade. Now, here's the question, Dawg. You have Justin Fields. He's hurt. I don't know if he's out for the year, but
he's coming back.
yeah, I think he, he might be coming back.
Yeah.
But the returns on him have not been good, right? As a runner, he's
that leg of the Kadarius Toney trade also didn't wind up biting you.
Yeah.
That one.
So here's the thing. The Bears could very well have the first 2 picks in the draft. That's not even a much of a stretch at all, right? Almost certainly they're going to have 2 top 5s, right? And they're sitting there with Justin Fields. And he appears to many to not be the answer. There's still a few people who probably think he's, I mean, does he have more fans or less fans than like Daniel Jones? I don't know. Maybe they're about even.
It's less hatred because there's a lot of hatred of Jones. It's New York.
There's a lot of hatred for Fields too. It's True. The Bears.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? So Carolina has 0 incentive to tank, right? Because the Bears have their pick. In fact, they want to win as many games as possible because they don't want to give the Bears the number 1 freaking overall pick. But the Bears are now going to be in a position where it's like they got to take a quarterback, and then what do they do with Justin Fields, right? Yeah. Like so, actually, the Giants
the Bears are totally incented to tank tonight.
They are, yeah, they are.
I mean, that's very perversely, but
well, it's a win-win for them.
Both picks.
They're tied. They should tie. The Bears could literally play for a tie tonight. That game could be like a 10-10 tie. Like that wouldn't even be a stretch. Yeah. As long as Carolina covers, I don't care.
That would be pretty sick. Get the quarterback and get Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah,
that's good. That's a good start to a rebuild. Yeah, that's a pretty good start.
That's definitely the move, right? Like Caleb Williams,
or you trade the other one, then you get a ton of. I mean, it depends where you think you need your value, right?
Yeah.
Like that's always tough. Do you trade Marvin Harrison for, I don't know, however many, 2 or 3, a 1 this year and a 1 next year.
But the thing is, you put yourself in this position, right? And you're like, well, like if you keep Justin Fields and you still think that he might be your guy, then you now have 2 massive assets that you could use to add to your team. Right. Yeah. So the Giants are kind of, in a way, they're in a similar position, right? Mm-hmm. It's just that they don't have 2 picks, but they have 1, and they got to decide on a quarterback who's now like injured at times. He's shown, I mean, Daniel Jones, I think, has shown much more promise than Justin Fields. And there's probably people who would think I look at me like I have 5 heads for saying that. But I think Jones had a lot of time, especially last year, just the way he played in general. He showed that, all right, is he going to be like a top 5 quarterback in the league? No, but is he a guy that...
I think he's a guy who could be a top 10.
Yeah, I mean, like he maybe
still.
Toward the bottom, right? But like a guy who you feel like could be a general to win you a game. Yeah. Like a better version of like Brock Purdy.
He helped them win games, and he helped win a playoff game. It was not just managing; he actually did it. I think it's in fairness. I mean, you can look back at like if you want to be like, oh, but in fairness, and that's why they signed that deal, right? They thought he could be the guy, not necessarily the perfect guy. I mean, they signed him with the 2-year out for a reason. I think it was the right sort of move. But yeah, this was like the shot. Like he had his 9 games to say like this is the Lions finally come together a little bit. It's not ridiculously hard early schedule like they were facing. This is sort of his chance to say like, yes, this is why you should have confidence in me for next year. And unfortunately, the gods were just against it.
But it becomes a very tough call then for the Giants if you juxtapose their position with like the Bears, right? Where the Bears are like, okay, the Bears could take the quarterback and still take the other guy. The Giants are like, well, like what if Marvin Harrison Jr. is there for the Giants? And they're like, wait, do we decide to take the quarterback and, just let him play behind, let him sit behind Daniel Jones for a year, and then in a year, Marvin Harrison Jr. is not there, right? Or you win 8 games and you don't make the playoffs, and you have the 16th pick or something, right?
I
Like
mean,
it's
that's a classic one with like like the agency risk, right? Where if you're Shane and Dable, you've got to take the new quarterback. Like if you go and you have a chance of getting theoretically your guy franchise quarterback, that sort of gives you your extra 2 to 3 years to developing that guy and et cetera, et cetera. If you had a chance to not re-sign Daniel Jones, you signed him, and then he got hurt, and you got another chance to get a quarterback, and you don't take him, and Jones comes back, gets hurt, mediocre, whatever, those guys are gone, in my opinion. So if you're Shane, you have to take the quarterback.
so that's an important way to look at it, right?
I mean, that's just reality.
I mean,
That's his ass on the line. And he might think Jones might be the answer, and he might be. You don't know. He might be, right? And you hope he comes back and he plays okay, and maybe somebody trades for him. You know what? I mean, I think he's going to be. I still think he's going to be a successful quarterback in the NFL. He may not be the number one. He may be is he a Tannehill? Is he like a you know average, maybe slightly below average, slightly above average in a good year? Maybe. And there's a lot of teams that would probably take that.
would the Jets take him?
If he was healthy right now, sure they would.
Right. So that's the
Right?
key.
So
If he was healthy right now, a lot of teams would take him.
yeah,
They would. The Jets, like imagine last year, if the Jets had Daniel Jones last year, they would have made the playoffs. They would have been the Giants, basically. Or they would have probably been even better if you think
yeah.
about it.
I mean, you know what? That's a great way to put it. Right on there. Like the Giants with a much worse team, much less talent, made the playoffs with Daniel Jones. The Jets had great talent, and Zach Wilson, and they didn't. Some injuries too, but in fairness, the Jets are a better team. And still today, right? Out there, I mean, DeVito just basically a better quarterback than wow. The Giants like beating the Jets right now. It was just maybe it's more of an indictment on Zach, but
Yeah, that was an indictment on football, that game.
it was so bad, so bad.
All right, now we could. I guess we sort of we've been doing pretty good with the segues here, transitioning like that transitions us into the Jets, where we just already started talking about them. The Robert Saleh position on Zach Wilson, man, he takes a lot of hits for that guy. But the thing is, Dawg, if you just look around the league, right? There's so many teams that have so many quarterbacks that are so injured. Like at least he's the same guy doing the same thing every week. Like at some point, does something click? Like does he ever get better? Like is it Nathaniel Hackett's fault? Maybe a little bit too. Like or do you say, well, no, look at last year, Nathaniel Hackett was not there. And it was a lot of the same Zach Wilson stuff. But honestly, like I think Zach Wilson looked better last year than this year. Like I feel like this year he looks even, I don't know, less competent. Is that a good way to put it? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, like his field vision and judgment seem to be worse this year. Like he's got the arm, he's got good mobility. He can be mentally he is not there against the top defenses and the top defensive coordinators. I think I think the Giants and Wink kind of showed that out with a solid team behind him, but when kind of forced to, can you go out and beat us throwing? Until the last 30 seconds, the answer was no. And then we just let him throw 60 yards in 20 seconds. But and that's one that makes you kind of nervous. I mean, that was a knock on Jones. I think that got pushed aside last year. Maybe kind of came back this year. So he kind of regressed too. In a similar sort of vein. Oh no, I mean, that's what makes it such a great sport, right? It's always the cat and mouse. And just when you think you have something set in one thing, it's, three equations and one variable, and something's always changing a little bit, and you've got to find a way to offset it in another spot. And so far, and if you feel for the Jets, right? I mean, they went out, they did what they had to do to get themselves to be a playoff and potential Super Bowl team, and the gods got them on the third play of the season, right? So they've kind of both been sort of snaked in different sorts of ways. Just the Jets have enough talent and maybe a slightly easier schedule, but they were to kind of sneak a couple by more, and the Giants weren't. I mean, how about like even Tyrod Taylor, the Jets? Tyrod Taylor on the Jets probably would have been fine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he would have.
I mean, he'd probably be 8-10 win team at least. Just it. I get it. He's gonna block.
The one thing that I liked about the Papa and Banks this week on their podcast was when they just were talking about the Giants offensive line, and Papa's like, I don't know, like I just can't figure out why. Like no matter for 10 years,
whatever they add is
everything they try, it just doesn't work. Like and some of the players are competent. Like Andrew Thomas is like literally good. Like it's not like it's not like it's like his fault or whatever, but there's something about like an offensive line coach is like low key the most underrated important position on a football team. Because we have seen over the years so many offensive line coaches just make the difference where you're like looking at these guys and you're like, this guy's not really that good. This guy's not really that good. This guy's all right. This guy's good. And like they just get it protected at the big play when they need to, or something works. There's some kind of harmony.
One guy gets hurt and the 6th round pick comes in and it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, whereas one guy gets hurt, the Giant thing, it's like Cinderella at midnight. It's like also they turn into mice.
And, although actually one of the best games that they played was when everybody got hurt, right? And it was like all new guys playing, and they actually played better in that game.
Yeah.
With these guys that like, I mean, not that you really have heard of a lot of offensive linemen to begin with, but just a strange thing, right? Like the Eagles, like even look at the Eagles, the year they won the Super Bowl, right? Like wasn't their best offensive lineman hurt? And like whoever just steps in,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a strange thing.
Yeah.
And then you have things like
it does feel like the Giants coaching on the line just feels like there has to be, like Bobby Johnson. It just feels like it's just not happening with that. Like there's too much talent getting winged toward it that is just regressing down lower. And like you've seen too many guys like go and like they're crappy for the Giants to go somewhere else and all of a sudden they're decent. Tyree Phillips like is kind of a borderline guy. He goes to the Eagles for 6 weeks, all of a sudden comes back and he's like so much better player. It's like, what? Well, he was here for the last year. Like, couldn't we have taught him anything? He goes down to these guys for a couple of weeks, and also it's like, oh yeah, he came back, he has all these good technique and all that. I'm like, well, it was here already. Why were we not getting that? I don't know.
Unearned runs.
Unearned runs.
Will kill you. All right, let's see. What did we pitch? The carousel. of managers. We didn't really talk too much about the carousel of managers, but Ron Washington going to the Angels.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Carlos Mendoza, you kind of covered Mendoza. I mean, so here's the thing, like as a Met fan, right? Like, I don't think it's that big a deal that you got a Yankee coach. Like, people were trying to make that a big deal. Like, I gotta tell you, Dawg,
That
this
ship
is embarrassing.
sailed.
Like, like I didn't even know who Carlos Mendoza was. Like, the Yankee bench coach had no visibility whatsoever, right? Like, everybody points to Boone. You know, nobody knew who the only bench coach who I know is Ray Montgomery. That's it. That's because I literally know him.
You filled
Like,
Evan for a while for the Metsies. That was fun.
yeah, but the thing is, like, the one thing I will say to credit the Mets for that is, like, bench coach is like a really awesome thing to have on your resume before you become a manager, right?
Yeah.
Like, and especially doing it in New York is kind of a big thing, don't you think? The
Yeah.
problem with it, if I'm a Mets fan, is, do I now have a guy who's in the cogs of that Yankee organization because now we're going to start acting like that, which if I was a Met fan, I wouldn't want them to do that, because, like, as a Yankee fan, I don't like a lot of what the Yankees do. I think a lot of it is kind of overrated. I think it has much more to do with Cashman and the front office than, you know, Boone, who ends up being the whipping boy. But
Yeah.
I did say this. I did have a tweet. I said the Mets should have hired Brett Boone as the coach, and then we could have Boone versus Boone. And Brett Boone liked the tweet. He did.
That was a goodie.
Yeah, it was good. I'm like, the Mets totally should have hired Brett Boone. Why not? Brett versus Aaron, like, that would have had something.
I feel pretty good about that.
But I think I think it really starts with the posture of the organization and the front office. Like, are they going to make you play the analytics ball? Are they going to just kind of hamstring you with a certain kind of player and, not stray from that too much? I mean, you have your stars, right? Your stars are there, but it's all the other guys that you surround them with. And then, is your manager part of a conglomeration that's deciding, who's going to be in the lineup? Like, we heard this stuff about Buck, right? Like, who he was forced to put Vogelbach in the lineup, which makes total sense to me, because I just never thought, like, I would ask myself on a nightly basis, I'm like, Vogelbach is just not a Buck kind of player. Like, I would see him giving the guy a shot. I see him playing Vogelbach when Vogelbach is hot, but otherwise, no. Just no. He's like, maybe not the hardest no ever, but just no. Like, he's not going to, like, he's like an anti-Buck guy. Like, Buck can't do Buck things with him there. He can't,
Blocks everything.
yeah, like, he clogs up the bases, and, like, it's just, okay, he's lefty. That's nice, but that's about it, right? So, like, is that what you want? Like, no, you don't want that. Like, and is that what's happened with the Yankees? Like, yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of what's happened with the Yankees. I think the Yankees haven't even had that much versatility, but it's a lot of this stuff where, Boone kind of made his name going from the broadcast booth to the managerial spot with the Yankees, because he was a guy that was looking at some analytics, and he was, an old school guy that was looking at the new school stuff, and he was open to it. But I just think that if he was not managing here, that he would manage differently. I just can't help thinking that. Can't help it.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like I've sort of said, with Boone before. I mean, I just think I hear we have a lot of fun with Mike taking the shots at Boone and stuff. Like, I think it just comes down to, I think he's a. I hope Jeff Wright is listening. Like the war, like he's a war of zero. He's to me he's the replacement manager. He's not. I don't think he's particularly going to lose you games. I don't think he's particularly going to win you games. And for a organization with the talent of the Yankees, and he's okay with the media, and he's okay with the players, and that's kind of what you need. Like, just don't blow it, right? We're going to put all the proper stuff in place. You just don't find a way to screw this up. And it's his thing. I think he does that, right? I occasionally have whatever, but every manager has stuff like that generally. And that's the thing. He's a low beta guy, and I think that's what the Yankees want in their organization. And that's kind of what they got. I do agree with you on I think it's more a cash in situation and more like the pieces that they're given and put in trying to fit into the puzzle. And I don't think it's necessarily Boone, not being able to find a way to put the guys together. So,
By the way, Dog, did you see the video of the president of Mexico recommending that the Padres hire Benji Gill as their manager? That literally happened. I thought
did not see that.
I'm like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah,
so
well,
Benji Gill was
that was
born in Tijuana, but he grew up just, I guess, on the other side of the border, and he was the Mexico manager at the World Series. What
World
is
Series
it?
baseball.
Is
World
that
Series
no?
baseball.
The World Baseball Classic? Is that what we call it? I don't know. It started the season.
Yeah.
The World Series of Golf, I think, is the thing you're thinking of. The World Series of Baseball is the thing that they just played with the Rangers and the Diamondbacks. That's
I don't know.
the World Baseball
Baseball
Classic.
Classic. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yes,
the World
Warriors.
Baseball Classic. Yeah, so he managed
No.
Mexico to a third place, I think it was. And yeah, and he's a Shigon guy. He's one of Jeff Fry's buddies. That was his double play combo guy. That was his shortstop in Texas, Benji Gill. So I thought that was kind of cool. I'm like,
That
wow.
was cool. I missed that. I feel bad. I missed that.
Like the president of Mexico telling the Padres, like, hire this guy. I'm like, all right. They probably should.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I guess you still got some openings in different places, and then we're on the precipice of free agency, and you had the qualifying offers,
GM meetings going on.
GM meetings, prompting.
Got Boris is letting us all know. For after he picked up the stone tablets, came down the mountain, and is letting us all know this is what baseball should be doing. So, thank you, Scott. Just happy we could all be in the same store again.
Oh my God. We got an update on the football game, Dog. You got that?
I do not have it up. I don't care. I don't care.
Wait, I don't know.
They're not as far down as like my interest level of the AL Central.
Dog, we got probably not that far away from the Stratomatic ratings extravaganza series of shows with Jerry Milani.
That is true. That's coming out soon, right? And yeah, Strat had something they were teasing on the Twitter. So something new coming out. We'll have to see.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I don't know. So I just buzzed by it real quick. I was like, oh, something new coming.
Bears up 16-10, just starting the fourth.
Yeah, you can see 16-16.
Yeah, that's
very achievable.
just totally just got to tie it, right?
By 16-16, I mean it'll be a pick six and they'll miss the extra points.
All right, Dog. Well, that's
quick hit.
I'll tell you that quick hit. I think this is like our best show since the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. We gotta get ready to go see our traveling reporter. We have to do a little drop in from this weekend.
Yeah, from the
stay
Hillbrook
close
Hacienda.
on the Facebook. Yeah, stay close to the Facebook.
I'll
Maybe
stay. Well,
sneak.
we got a lot going on Rizzo Vision this weekend. I think we got New Jersey Bandits girls hockey. There's actually missing a game on
Oof,
Friday,
Toughy.
and my backup is also missing the game. So, Luisa Rizzo will be playing in front of no parents. I think this is the first time ever that neither one of us have been there.
Wow.
So
Just showing the dedication. It's tough. It's tough being a hockey parent.
yeah, well, we got there wasn't supposed to be a game that night, and then so we got this big event for producer Xavier Rizzo's school and my alma mater, Bergen Catholic, and
Truth coming out now.
yeah, so it's like nobody can go. Nobody could go. She's gotta play for herself and her teammates, not for mommy and daddy in the crowd. But we'll be back on Saturday for a couple of games.
Dawg can't pitch it.
Yeah, Dawg's
Dawg's
out.
getting hammered in Arizona.
Yeah. So
Saturday in Arizona could be interesting.
oh boy.
Interesting time, Veterans Day. I'm bringing the hat out. Get my VFW hat. I'm gonna pop that out up there. Oh baby.
You bring in the duck?
The duck. Gonna see if I can get thrown out of an Applebee's.
If anybody could do it, you can.
I want to simultaneously have the free meal from Applebee's and also get kicked out.
Oh my god.
What do you think, Damn Dog?
Yeah, so you know what we forgot, Dog, is all the
sponsors?
all the sponsors, yeah. Gatto Acupuncture Wellness in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. Book online at gattoacu.com or call 551-212-3845. Mascolo Group Realtors serving the Northern Valley and the Pascack Valley and all of North Jersey. Go to GaryMascolo.com or call 201-615-3665. FMSgraphics.com is a family-owned, family-run business for over 50 years. Go to FMSgraphics.com for all of your printing and promotional needs. And, of course, Big Ed's Car Wash, 17-16 River Road in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Leave clean and green. It's a 118-foot tunnel that Big Ed has. Tell him Diamond Diehard sent you. And, of course, High Performance Foot and Ankle in Manasquan, New Jersey. Go have Dr. Stacy take a look at you. www.hpfoot.com. All right. Yeah, we got those in. Excellent. All right, Dog.
All right.
Have a safe trip.
Safe
trip. Happy Veterans Day.
Thanks, sir.
And
have fun at BC tomorrow night, and best of luck with Luisa on the ice.
Yeah, you gotta watch. You gotta watch from Arizona. Have Boomer throw it up on the screen.
There we go.
Get some shout outs.
Sounds good.
All right.
So
all right. That's gonna wrap it up. We're in the books. We are Mr. November and Mr. November. That is what we are. So that'll do it. Another episode in the books, and we'll be back whenever we decide to just assault our audience with a live stream or elsewhere.
I dare you to watch it.
Yeah, I dare you. Clickbait. This one was clickbait. Boy, if you stayed on this long, we got nothing for you. Sorry. We gone.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. That'll do it. For the Dog, Jeff Healy. This is Joe Rizzo. Diamond Diehards is out.